rise and join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll give you call the roll.
Yeah, I certainly just want to make sure it's ticking.
Fine.
Ellis.
Here.
Farnham.
Here.
Lawton.
Here.
Luddington.
Here.
Patrick. Bruner.
Here.
And Voigt.
Here. Okay, the purpose of this special meeting this morning is to remove the moratorium on wind farms and solar, and then adopt new ordinances for both. So, rather than going into removing first, why don't we discuss the two ordinances and then we can do the motions. That makes sense?
Sure. Both wind and solar were submitted for review and improvement, and I'm greatly appreciative of all of the improvements that were made in both the wind and the solar, partly cleaning up a lot of language that was there and making it more official and more logical. Probably the things that we need to talk about, I'll do solar first. I don't disagree with anything that he was saying, and he pointed out some places where I was more of the impression that if the law didn't say you couldn't do it, that you could. And his interpretation in some places was that it could be argued that some of our language was outside of the scope of the law, therefore it could be argued against. So that's a philosophical point. The one
I'd like to note something. In counties, and we've run into this before, and Carl can attest to this, if it doesn't implicitly give us the authority to do something, we can't assume that we can do it. We have to have a written authority to do something. Counties do. Cities, not so much, but counties. And there's a rule for that. There's something, Miller's rule or something like that that's been tested in the Supreme Court. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I had left everything in there, in both ordinances, and pretty much just changing the setbacks. And so that's what some of this was that he had gone in and updated for us. The one thing on the solar is that we had some language about airports. And his statement is, it's worth noting that the FAA policy states, this policy does not apply to solar energy systems on airports that do not have an air traffic control center. Airports that are not federally obligated or solar energy systems not located on airport property. So basically, that removed a whole paragraph in our previous ordinance. One other thing, and it's in both of them, is we had on the liability insurance and indemnification, we had said that coverage amounts of at least $5 million per occurrence and $20 million on the aggregate during the life of the facility. And he had suggested checking with insurance agents and companies to see if these amounts are available, common, and commercially reasonable. So they're left in there, and at this point, I don't see any reason to change them. The other thing is, and I have this on solar and I don't have offhand on wind, any violation of this ordinance shall be an offense punishable by a fine of not less than $100, but not to exceed $1,000 per day. A separate offense shall be deemed committed upon each day during or on which a violation exists, occurs, or continues. And he said the court has the discretion but cannot go lower than a minimum contained in an ordinance. So I would recommend setting a minimum. Additionally, I would advise providing for the recovery of any cost the county incurs. So that's language, although we can go ahead and approve this today, I do think that it's really important that this is a paragraph that we discuss and consider updating pretty quickly. The other is the applicant must submit, and this is the same for each ordinance, the applicant must submit a certified check to the county for the application fee equal to 5,000 per megawatt of the proposed nameplate capacity. And he states, this seems a little high for solar. A county must be able to demonstrate that a fee is both reasonable and consistent with other fees it charges. And I'm thinking, if I say I'm gonna charge it for the solar and for the wind, and there is no other applicable entity or program, how can you say these aren't reasonable? So again, I just wanna leave it.
Is that on page 14?
On the solar one,
Yeah.
it is page 15 at the bottom.
Well, on my copy, on page 14, the building permit fee is blank.
And you're on solar,
Yep. Building permit fees,
and 14.
on the version 5/17/23.
Fee schedule B. B, yeah,
Yeah, schedule B.
Point it out.
right here.
Okay, mine is not looking good, so I'll be scheduling.
So X fee schedules, item B.
Okay. X, fee schedules. I don't even have a B. Do you?
This is in the clean version.
Okay, then I'm in the edited version. A,
And then you got 1, 2, 3 under A.
there's B, I'm sorry, okay. And didn't we say that we don't have building fees and that actually this needs to be struck?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Carl. So we would have separate building permits if we were a zoned county. So that needs to be removed.
Just take him out.
Yeah.
Because that's a different fee than the 5,000.
Yeah, I'm understanding that now.
Yeah,
No,
thank
that's
you.
all right.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure either till we talked it through.
Yeah, so those are the things that at some point in the foreseeable future,
And we can strike that later.
yeah, we can strike that.
And I had another question.
Uh-huh.
On basically the weeds, what they're underneath the solar farm on
What page you want?
this, well, page 6 is aesthetics and lighting 2 on the ground cover. You know, it talks about the pollinator friendly site act, and I didn't go looking at that, so I don't know what all that is involved with, but and I know you have to, let's see, I know with the pollinator, you know, you gotta keep weeds under control, you know, the noxious weeds and all that, you got brush growing up. So,
I noticed the one across the road, they mow underneath theirs, but the one over in Coles County, I have no idea whether they mow, whether they just let things grow wild, or,
They mow it, they do mow it, because I know the person that does it. I believe there's this, it's more, as I'm recalling, it's more like CRP, that you mow it after a certain date.
okay. And that would go along with the pollinator program,
That's a
maybe.
good,
Pollinators totally,
Yeah.
you can't, you can remove trees from it, but you have to ask permission to do anything. You let it set for, I have pollinator, had it, let it set for 1 year, and then it's in a 3-year cycle, and you divide it into thirds, and you
Mhm.
cut disc
Yeah.
or spray it 1 year, 1/3, second year 1/3, third year 1/3, and then it's done. You don't touch it after that,
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm
except
a
for
little
trees.
uncomfortable with that, and I don't know that we can resolve
You
it
can't.
today,
right,
but that's something we need to have some discussion. And, I don't know whether we can require them to mow, keep, I don't know what we can and can't do, but I'm just concerned about it getting trashy looking,
because I
We'll
know
have
the
to
one in
add that,
Vermillion
believe.
County, Illinois is trashy looking.
so.
And right, that went back to my concern on fire,
Right, so that's just something we need to address
yeah.
at some point in the near future. But I don't know if we can resolve it today.
Um, And then on wind,
By the way, both ordinances have a say that for me. Recidivism clause, where if something is declared void by a court, the rest of it stays. Okay? Sorry, got trouble with that word.
page 10 on the solar, or on the wind. Communications, K. We had quite a bit in here, and this came, this was from
It's
the.
not gonna be the same page.
Page 9 on the other.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. So on communication analysis and interference, the attorney's statement was, these standards and regulations appear to be outside of the scope of the new legislation. As a result, they run the risk of being considered more restrictive than the statute, thus prohibited. With respect to local safety and emergency communications, a county probably has a better chance of regulating. With respect to broadcast TV or other consumer communications, those are probably left to the authority of the FCC and maybe the Illinois Commerce Commission. So what we were trying to do, because the original ordinance example that we were provided by UCCI just talked about TV, and we're like, TV is nothing. So we had added E911 communications, which is local. And then we had also talked about, because our other concern was broadband, because that's where we're focused at the moment. So the attorney did take out the language that he thought probably wouldn't fly and left in our local communications and emergencies communications. So the way it is now, the attorney is comfortable that we have more of a leg to stand on. On application fees, which is X, for me it's page 22. The first paragraph, prior to processing any application for a commercial wind energy facility, the applicant must submit a certified check to the county for an application fee
Page 20.
equal to 5,000 per megawatt. And my question had been, does there have to be a ceiling? And, he had said county doesn't have to list a maximum, however, again, we must be able to demonstrate that the fee is both reasonable and consistent with other fees and charges.
Is that 5,000 per unit?
Per megawatt.
And also on that, right below that on C,
Okay,
about halfway down in C, the 1, 2, 3, fourth line, it says the existing regarding the commercial solar energy facility. Should that be wind
oh,
energy?
yeah, thank you.
I spent 2 hours last night reading all through all this and the jail stuff, so I studied.
Well, and I obviously copy pasted from one to the other where I thought the language we have better language in our solar one than we did our original wind. So thank you. So that's where I am with this. Do you have anything else?
Well,
Well, in general, but
yeah,
Yeah.
but no, I think I appreciate all the extra work you've done on this, and it's
yes.
made it better, even though there's the main sticking point, that's a problem with me. Just wind farms in general is a problem with me. It just makes me sick when I see them, but,
I did talk to Chapin Rose about all this because there was talk, if you will, about maybe we should just hold tight or whatever. And his opinion was that at this point, we didn't have many options other than to go along. And that also was our attorneys. Because I said, well, we had considered not even doing anything because that is really not an option. Because then you do not have anything at all, nothing. So, other comments, please. All right. Well, I need a motion to remove moratorium on applications for commercial use of wind farms. Know everybody's excited about doing that. Russ moves. Dan seconds. Do we want to do a roll call?
I think we should.
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnham,
present.
Lawton,
Yes.
Ludington,
Yes.
Patrick,
Present.
Bruner,
Yes.
You want to call my name? I'm not going to hide.
Voigt,
Yes.
Explain present, I think I know, but just to make sure.
Well,
What does that mean when you say you're just present?
I'm here.
Means you
Means I
don't,
don't like it, that, yeah,
but you don't want to.
but I'm not
so what
gonna.
was the
Okay.
vote? 5-2?
5-2.
I thought that's what it was.
I did vote.
Cross that
Okay,
line.
next we need a motion to approve the ordinance adopting restrictions and citing standards related to the installation and use of commercial wind farm energy facilities with the proviso that we strike the word solar and substitute wind for that one item on page 20.
Did you get that, Augie?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
And the other stuff we're gonna have to do, we'll just do with amendments here in the next month or so. Okay, is that all right? So we need a motion to state, Russ moves. Dan seconds. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk?
Ellis.
Yes.
Now, which are we doing on the number?
We're doing number 6 right now.
Wind.
We're doing the wind.
Oh,
The first was to remove the moratorium, and
oh,
the second
well,
one is
I
to
guess I
approve.
would, okay. Present,
You can vote present on hold.
present.
So, okay. Present. Lawton.
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Patrick.
Present.
Bruner.
Yes.
And Voight.
Yes. Next item is to remove moratorium on applications for commercial use of solar power. I need a motion, please. Russ moves. Dan seconds. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnham.
Yes.
Lawton.
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Yes.
Voight.
Lastly, approve an ordinance adopting restrictions and siting standards related to the installation and use of commercial solar energy facilities. Do I have a motion, please? You guys might as well stick together, that way you can all, Dan, Russ and Dan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk?
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnham.
Present.
Lawton.
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Patrick?
Present.
Bruner.
Yes.
And Voight.
Yes. Okay, those all were passed. So that is the purpose of this meeting, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Russ moves. Augie seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Andy. Augie, Andy, Andy.
Close
Pardon me,
enough.
guys. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I should have thanked the Farm Bureau and Wyatt in particular for the help that he and his agency have given us working through this. So, thank you very much, and you need to pass that on. We appreciate everything that they've been able to do and will continue to do.
It's a living, breathing document. So
Right.
we're
Absolutely.
Thank goodness.
gonna keep tweaking it as we go, so.
Thank you.
All you gotta do is push that button.
Okay, let's go with the meeting. We did study session, no, we've already said it. So, we'll just onward and upward. Adam?
Creature of habit.
We said it earlier, about a half an hour ago, sorry.
This is EMS week,
Okay.
so just love on an EMS worker when you see them out, love on their families for their giving us their time. And on Friday evening at 5:30, we have a community appreciation dinner at the Horizon Education Center, which is formerly Cornerstone Baptist Church. It's a nice catered barbecue meal, so you all are welcome to attend. It's just to honor the EMS folks in the community and the volunteer fire and fire department.
I don't have anything new since last time, but I did meet with Jill, and Chad joined us as well. We kind of debriefed the Crawford County tornado. I went down to assist, so we talked about their EMA down there. Chad is from that area, so he had an extensive conversation with their fire chief. Brought up a few points that we definitely need to improve on, so I asked Jill to be here this morning. Huh?
I said,
But she has reached out to several other counties to find out what they're doing. After going through the financial budget for ESDA, and the equipment, we are definitely lacking. I know we can't do much with the budget in the middle of the budget year, but a lot of the equipment is in dire need of upgrade, and we are years behind other counties. So I'll kind of interpret to Jill to let her talk about what some of the findings are and see what you guys want to do with that information.
Yeah, he was just saying the way Crawford County responded to like their tornado incident, we do not have any type of mobile command center, anything like that. So we were just basically, when it comes to responding to that kind of emergency, that we were very, like, I guess, just not ready to respond to something like that. The big issue comes, like I said, me and Jeff talked funding. There's not a lot of grants out there from EMA. I reached out to several counties. ask them, and I have these for you if you want, you can look over them. But basically, like how many employees they have, their operating budget, their population, do they have like vehicles, how was it funded, mobile command center, how was it funded, and what other kind of grants you get besides the EMPG grant. So I have all that information here. I reached out to several counties in our region along with Crawford County. So if you guys want those, I have those, but it's just something I think that needs to be brought to everyone's attention. Figure out a way that, I mean, maybe there's grants out there with bringing Adam in and other people that I'm not aware of, that maybe we could get some funding for some stuff, and it's not anything that's gonna happen right away. It may take a couple years to get to where we need to be, but at least everyone's aware of it and, you know, we can work that way, so, like I said. Yeah,
The gentleman I met from the state, the region.
Richard.
We had talked about some equipment that we were gonna put in for. He indicated to you and I
Mhm.
that a budget might, or grants might be available for some of those equipment. Has that not happened or dried
No,
up?
like I said, the EMPG grant is the only thing we can do, and we spend 50% of that on our salaries. So like I said, if the county funded our salaries, and it's based on your population of your county. So I forgot to bring that one. I have the breakdown of everyone's EMPG, stuff too, but like I said, this is just like a simple questionnaire I just, emailed out to everyone. So like I said, it's just every different county, just so you can kind of see where we are compared to everyone else, so.
Please pass those.
You're welcome to have them. That's basically all I had, and I just welcome you guys to meet with me, maybe Adam, Chad, even Samantha if she wants to be a part of it.
Got a command center, do they have to get like the ILS command center or?
Crawford did have their own.
No, there's several that, they at least have their own vehicle that's outfitted with radios and things, but, probably about 50% of them have a mobile command center. The
Okay.
rest of it, yes, you would have to request, and,
I will say one caveat to Crawford County where they get some additional funding is they have Marathon down there.
Mhm.
So that, they do get some funding from Marathon that helps them out quite a bit.
same with DeWitt County, they have the power plant down there, so they get a lot of stuff, but, DeWitt County is one of the things that kind of brought up, they get $15,000 or $20,000 a year, through the city of Clinton. They basically contract them to do their emergency, planning for the city. And I was telling Adam, I have not gotten an emergency plan for the city since 2003. That's the last copy I at least have in my office. So, and I said, that's something where, I mean, if they were interested in, that we could help plan, you know what I mean? And that would just be a little bit extra income coming in as well. That way, but like I said, you can see on the bottom of the grants, like there's not a lot of ones that everybody gets. It's just, there's just not a lot of funding out there.
Newport was what it
Huh?
helped, Newport is what helped
Yeah.
fund us years ago.
That's how I got the trailer, all the
Everything
stuff.
got from
I think the
Newport.
building even, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So we get a lot of CSEP money back with Newport, but that is,
No.
say, there's some, basically equipment that we have out there is still is
Right.
CSEP, and that stuff is passed into the life. We've
I agree.
kind of left it alone. The trailer out there is not currently operational, so I mean, it needs work. But one thing that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know what the feasibility of it is, so I know you guys have sheriff's committee and building, several different committees. So I want to see what you guys would think about putting together an ESDA or an EMA committee as part of the county board. But again, that's on you. I just want to see what the feasibility of that would be.
We already have one.
Well,
Well, we have one, but it's always been one member
right,
rather
but
than multiple.
like I mentioned the other day, I
There's
suggested,
been 3, I said you were in charge, and one year, and then it was
Since I've been on the
Leslie.
board 13
Yeah.
years, there's only been one.
yeah, but me
Keller's the
and
only one that put me on the committee, and that's all we've had.
the county board chairman had a conversation the other day about that, either getting a separate committee or put a sheriff as the committee. And I think that, I agree, that needs to be
I
done.
just think we need some more heads around the table to come up with ideas of how we can advance things, because right now, if we do have an emergency, now we're lucky that with all the existing agencies, we've all got individual equipment, but we, as far as Horizon, we rely on Region 6 Carl, as far as our disaster preparedness, we've got some stuff at the hospital. Fire relies on Mavis, law enforcement relies on ILEAS to bring in that stuff, but if there are several if it's a large disaster, we can't rely on those resources, so we need to kind of be self-sufficient. Right now, we are not.
And with our budget, I was just pointing out too, we do have a pretty big, it's like 76,000. Well, that goes to some of it, our salary. Well, 50% of it, the EMPG grant we get back, but I said it goes into the general fund. And then we pay, the majority of our budget is, I kind of put on there, we pay for $500 a month for our phone lines. Our electric bill is crazy out there because that building's not insulated. We pay for like our trash services. We pay for like, so like a lot of that stuff, we pay for the notification center, the wireless emergency notification system. And so I said that's like a big chunk of our budget is just our costs out there, not, like I said, we have a little bit for overtime and travel, and other than that, the rest of it goes to building maintenance and stuff, so. Like I said, it's just if you guys would, I would like to get around with you guys, maybe next study session, or even a time outside of the study session, and just get thoughts and ideas and somewhere to start. And
Okay, we'll work on that.
okay.
Okay.
Do you guys
Any other questions?
Yeah.
So do you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns for Sam or myself?
Are you still having your 10:30 meeting today? If we get out of here, fine, we'll try to make the right.
Oh, yeah, it's just the fair meeting. It's just about the fair. We have Shannon coming. But last year we did an exercise. This year we're not doing that, so it's just kind of making sure everyone's on the same page. So yeah, you're welcome to come. It's at 10:30.
Harrison Mace is here from CORE. Do you have a report to give us on the construction of the roof?
I do. Howdy everyone, my name is Harrison Meese. I'm the project manager from CORE, working on the courthouse. I'll actually be taking over all of Edgar County, should we proceed with any of our other projects, so you'll be seeing more of me. Good to see you all. So if you folks haven't heard or are aware, we did some sampling of the courthouse for lead and asbestos. There was no asbestos, but there was high amounts of lead, above the EPA recommended level on the fascia of the courthouse. Now, the good news is that we're going to be removing the fascia entirely. So because we're not scraping it off, that means two things. Number one, that once we remove the fascia, we can dispose of it as regular construction debris. So we don't need any kind of special place to put it once it gets taken off. Additionally, we don't need any kind of special abatement agency to handle the removal of it. So those are the two good news. The bad news is that lead remediation is outside the original scope of the contract. So we will need a change order for the training that we're going to need to give the roofers for that work. And what that entails is a 8-hour OSHA required lead safety class that all of the roofers are going to have to take to be able to do that work. They're going to need respirators for the work, and then they're going to need to be able to take a blood sample test before and after to confirm that they aren't exposed to any lead while working on the project. So we're currently getting those numbers together for you guys. At the moment, the team is working around the fascia and continuing as much work as they can, but they're eventually going to run out of work where they're at, so we'll need to move relatively quickly on this decision.
In the next week, 2 weeks?
I would say within the next week.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to be able to get that number to you guys by end of day tomorrow. That's my goal. Because like I said, luckily it's an online class. We don't have to go somewhere. We don't have to bring a specialist in. We were able to find an online class for all these guys so they can take it on their own time. And then the blood sampling, I just asked Kryling, I said, wherever you guys send your guys to do drug tests and all that, I'm sure they do blood testing, so it should be pretty easy for them to just get a number for that and put it together. And then respirators are X amount per respirator.
How many people are we talking about?
I think about 6. Yeah.
So we'd be catching their hours for those,
For that class, yeah.
and then plus their time to and from getting the blood samples.
Correct. Yeah.
Questions about that? How's everything else going?
everything else is going great. They're moving along, they haven't come into any big troubles. We've coordinated with your guys' landscaping group to make sure that the grounds are getting taken care of, that they're nice and clean. And otherwise, the job site has been cordoned off and we haven't had any issues with anybody snooping around on the inside, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you guys, I'm gonna make my way there.
Thank you.
Did you guys have something you wanted to discuss? We've got scheduled discussions today on something else. Sure.
I was just gonna quickly, report to the board that I have been talking to a dentist. She is very, very interested in coming to our area. She's wanting to schedule a visit to come look at our clinic. And, also to let you know that we had a Celebrate Families event, about a week ago. It was highly successful, and people, Blue Cross Blue Shield partnered with us, as well as several of our businesses here locally, and it really turned out very nicely, and we had great participation from the community. I also wanted to report that Rodney Wolf resigned from our board, and Dr. Graham has submitted Abby Barrett's name as a potential board member, and Dr. Rico has submitted Dr. Fry's name as a potential board member.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Dr. Rico.
Okay, yeah, he said he had a call into you,
Right.
and that's what I wanted to come tell you.
Yes.
There's something in the paper about somebody trying to destroy the van. Is
Blow
that
up the
correct?
van, yes, that happened. Somebody,
Put doors on the
yes, we approved that this morning, didn't we, Lisa? So the doors will, I'm hoping, Paris Feed said they thought they could get somebody out this week or next week to get those doors on. They were about $3,400 for both doors, so we're getting that taken care of. There was no damage to the vehicle. I can't believe it. I looked at the footage and you would have thought there would have been damage, but there wasn't.
Thank you.
Did you approve the possible increase in salary for the
The board
dentist?
did approve that, yes. So I think we have a real shot at getting this person, and the conversations that she and I have been excellent.
Okay. Thank you. Did you wanna talk about broadband briefly before we move on to the sheriff's?
Sure, gentlemen, yield to you.
Matt Sullivan, and as a member, I just give a little wrap up on the broadband project that we've had going since February. There's Tim and myself and a few other individuals in the room here who have been on that same committee, and then I think there might be others that have listened in on from time to time. But just to get an overview, the project was to evaluate what kind of broadband, okay, broadband is high-speed internet, for anybody who's a little bit unfamiliar. What kind of broadband, what kind of internet we were getting in the county. It was a countywide thing. What kind of internet people wanted, what they were going to use it for, and what they were willing to pay for it. So this project was a collaborative effort with Benton Institute out of Minnesota, and they're getting some funding from the United Soy Board and the Illinois Soybean Association, and then Farm Bureau's been a partner with them. They picked 6 counties in the state to evaluate broadband, or 5 counties, 5 or 6, in the state to evaluate what kind of broadband was going in those counties. And so then we partnered with them, did a survey. That's how we got the information from the residents of what they wanted to use it for, how they were, what they were willing to pay for, and all that kind of stuff. But to wrap it up, you know, we evaluated, the summary was, by the FCC standards for broadband, largely the people in rural Edgar County are unserved with high-speed internet. So just to give you a few numbers, between 25 and under is unserved, 25 to 100 is underserved, and then over 100 is fully served. All right, so, I mean, 90% probably of the land is in the unserved category. Now, when you get into city limits of Paris, you're gonna have higher numbers of people who are served because you've got other providers who are targeting densely populated areas. That's the easiest way for them to make the business model work. Well, I guess long story short, Tim can speak a little bit, but for myself, I believe in having access to broadband as a resident because it brings opportunities for economic development direct to the county. So as we go forward, the need for having access to high-speed broadband gives you access to world markets. Now that may sound a little far-fetchy, fine. But if anybody wanted to be here in this county running a worldwide business, which we, in the right place, you have access to worldwide markets. If they wanted to be here in this county running a worldwide business, they would be struggling to have adequate service to be able to do that. Now, there are providers who are providing such means, but they come at a price. And
Is this like places like NAL and stuff like that?
so, okay, so specifically NAL, they have fiber optic. They have fiber optic data, and there's fiber in other spots in the county. And the ultimate goal would be to have fiber to everyone's home. Now that may be a little bit stretched as far as being a goal, but whether you have fiber to everybody's home or whether you have fiber feeding a cellular tower that then feeds everybody's home, whether you do it by ground or by air, that's the cost benefit or the cost balance that you have to factor in. But ultimately, the technology is advancing very rapidly to be able to get high-speed data to everybody's house. Whether, like I said, if you're in the city, you're gonna have fiber to your door. If you're in the country, you might have fiber to the door. Most likely, you're gonna have a wireless signal of some sort. Hopefully, that would be fed by a good, strong wireless fiber optic system. There are providers who are investigating, or there are providers who are already here. There's providers who are investigating coming here. Satellite, wireless, fiber optic, they're all in there's all the pieces there. I guess, go ahead.
We've met with, on a subcommittee meeting with different vendors, and we met with several different vendors, and then we met with Interstar a week or so ago, and kind of getting the same response from all of them. It's kind of like, well, we'd love to do this, but you know, the money. Well, there's grants out there that are available, but we can't apply for the grants. So it's kind of almost a catch-22. We've got to find a company that's willing to put a plan together and apply for the grant, because they would be the ones that end up getting the grant money. Finding these companies is like, yeah, if there's money, we'll come do it. Well, we can't. You know, that's the catch-22. If we had the money, we can entice them to come here, but we can't go get the money, so they've got to be the ones that get the money. So how do we entice them? And also trying to figure out, what is our goal? Are we trying for fiber to every house? Are we trying for fiber to, you know, strategically placed towers to then try to hit the whole county? So that's been the trick, I guess. So there are grants available. There's more grants coming available. We've just got to find someone to partner with, or people to, you know, companies to partner with to either do the whole county or do areas of the county, you know, however we do it.
We've identified the areas that are wanting but don't have. We've identified areas that have but maybe aren't even utilized. A little bit. I've seen a map that have but they're not utilizing it, based due to either price or ignorance, one or the other. Which, and don't get me wrong, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't know what you don't know. But I see it as economic. I see it. I think you and Tim and I are on the same page. This is the new age rural electrification. Okay, to electricity brought to the countryside back in the 30s and 40s, what the potential is there for broadband to bring to the countryside today, if that makes sense.
Carl, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, a few questions. You're talking about this, bringing the fiber to a tower and doing it that way. I never heard of that or thought about that. How much is there range? I mean,
All
is it
cell phone
10 mile?
towers, cell phone towers are fed by fiber, so it kind of depends on which technology you want to go. If you want to go line of sight, then there's,
Mm-hmm.
what would, Terry would probably say 6 to 8 miles, you know,
Yeah.
and the technology's improving too.
Right.
Then you could go, we've learned about a lot of different technologies, LTE,
Mhm.
like cellular, you know, so different ways that way. My argument on that is we've got such poor cell coverage throughout the county too. Can we kill two birds and try to get, you know, improve our cell coverage and our broadband internet at the same time?
I know we have trouble out the state line. I mean, you're
Yep.
aware of that.
Yep.
But,
And it's kind of a, you know, I don't want to use the term good enough, but what is good enough? You know, I use the argument, not every household needs 1,000 amp three-phase power. So what is the equivalent of a, you know, a 200 amp service, electric service to every household? What's the internet equivalent of that? Is it 100 megabytes? You know, what is that? So then that kind of depends on what we push for. Do we push to try to get fiber to every household? Do we try to push for setting up towers in different places, you know?
did I read in the Terre Haute paper that over in Vigo County, they're trying to get the fiber to all the houses? I know I've seen different places on 150, they've been putting in a lot of lines and stuff.
Joink has made a big push that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get a good, strong provider who's willing to invest in their infrastructure and then have a business plan that will help allow them to recapture it, then,
Right.
yeah, there are those out there.
Well, when you did the survey, was most of the concerns for the individuals at their houses or like farmers, was it farmers to do all the spray, you know, I mean, you know, that's satellite and stuff, but.
We didn't get into, really break it down that way. I
Okay.
mean, it was labeled as, you probably know better on this, but, whether it's a farm business or an ag business or just a household, or, you know, you selected what you were reporting on, I guess you'd say, so.
As far as the advantages to having it on a farm is a small business.
Mhm.
You know, or in some cases, a very large business.
Right.
Depending on who you're talking about, but there are, efficiencies that come with having that availability. There are definitely revenue that comes back to the county through property taxes, through, real estate taxes, all that. The, income taxes, whatever you portion it, sales taxes, it all comes back. So from an aspect of investing into the county to get that back over the long term, that's where it makes sense to have, that's where it kind of makes sense to have a little bit of public interest in that kind of infrastructure. Yeah, I get it, nobody has money, nobody wants to spend money on something that's that far out, but there are counties, namely Greene County has developed a plan to get fiber to every house. Well, Greene County is in western Illinois, they're not a highfalutin county, they're not, the affluence isn't terribly up there. So, but they've got a group of people who are working with Frontier to make it happen.
So it sounds like we need to get someone to kind of take the lead on pursuit. I mean, I know you guys are getting the information, but we gotta get a company or somebody.
You can have a mutual, you can have that's why we met with Interstar, because
Right.
the best case is really somebody who's already got the capability to interface with customers. They've already got a customer base, they've already got, they're in most of the homes in rural Edgar County.
Right.
Okay, they're already there. Well, let's piggyback on them to have the next service, the broadband service. Their focus is not telecom infrastructure, their focus is electrical. We did not get a closed door response, slam the door response, but they're not exactly excited about the opportunity either.
Has Clark County showed any interest in this broadband stuff that you're aware of?
Clarksville Telephone Company, I know is doing, they're trying to do fiber to homes down there, but as far as Clark County as a county whole, I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking, because Interstar is in Clark County, not all of Clark County, but quite a bit.
Right.
And, if they would, that would make sense in a way, but if they're not interested.
And a lot of them that I've talked to, Clarksville Telephone Company, we met with Dave Clinton at Interstar last week, and he kind of said the same thing. He said, these grants are great, but there's also, I don't want to say strings that are tied to them, but it's better. Clarksville Telephone said, we want to do things on our own. We want to do, what we can afford to do on our own. And one thing Dave said when we met with him, they're in the process of trying to upgrade how they communicate with the substations. Well, he said when he was in Virginia, that's how they set up their broadband network. Was they went fiber to those substations to begin with and started branching off from there. But he said they're not looking at doing that here as far as going fiber to the substation. So I guess my thought that way is staying in communication, that if we can work together on some of this stuff, and again, kind of kill two birds type thing. Don't say, well, they're gonna set up a network to communicate with their substations, and then we're gonna try to get broadband. Well, if we could do, it's kind of like Bob Colvin mentioned at a meeting. He said, I wish we knew years ago that when we were doing the Clark Acre Water, he said, we had trenches open. We could have put, at least put conduit in the ground, and he said, we were putting tracer wire in. Why didn't we do this with that? So making sure that we've got an outlet that we don't miss an opportunity that way, I guess.
Anybody else have any questions other than?
Josh or Gary, do you have anything to add? Or Lisa?
And we've talked about, so what's the county's role in this? What is needed from the county? And there are some opportunities to do a couple of studies, but, and again, that would be presenting more information to what would be a vendor, but we don't have any teeth. What we kept being told was, yes, but you can provide a letter of support. Well, that would be needed or appreciated when they go for a grant. Well, we could do that, but we have to have somebody who's interested. And I think that it would be safe that you guys would have said, yes, we would be willing to give you a letter of support if you want to move forward. But ultimately, this is very much a free enterprise kind of situation. And it is disappointing that Interstar had said that they are not real interested, because there is already a model out there that other rural electric organizations have taken this on. But
We have Frontier or Verizon, whatever it is, throughout the county. How many different phone companies have we got?
there are several that are going along the highways, and we had hoped we could convince one of them, because those are called middle miles, we learned. We were hoping to convince one of them to then branch out, but they were not really interested. So there are a lot of people wanting our communities that are along the highways.
The new one that's supposed to be coming in along 16, what Terry said, there's fiber to the jail. I mean, he knew some different places, but it's that trying to branch off of that and go. And I mean, one of the companies said it's $40,000 or $50,000 a mile to install fiber. So, I mean, looking at it from a business perspective, why would you do it? Interstar, they've got 3.5 connections per mile on average in the county, and they said that may be grain bins, pole sheds, that's not households. So say you've got 1.5 or 2 households, $40,000 or $50,000 per mile for 2 houses, that's hard to justify. So it does come into a grant situation or a wireless situation where we've got to be able to connect multiple houses with less infrastructure.
Well, I think it's important that you guys realize the study that was, or the survey that was done by the committee, all that data was compiled and analyzed by the Extension Office in Champaign. And Edgar County had the highest rate of return on the surveys. But again,
it's not a scientific survey, it is a self-reporting survey. People interested and willing to respond to it. And what they found out is that Edgar County, based on the other counties, we're probably one of the most unserved and underserved counties that they've looked at so far as broadband internet access. And the broadband, as you pointed out, currently the definition is 25 megabits down, 3 megabits up. The goal is everywhere that we've looked at, from the studies we've gone through and the Zoom meetings we've had, that the realistic goal is 100 both ways. And one of the speakers, who's with the Joe Carroll Electric Co-op of the Northwest County, said, hey, within 5 years, that's going to be way inadequate, because every time you buy a new appliance, it's connected to the internet. You buy a new furnace, you buy a new refrigerator, you buy a new stove, anything, it's going to be connected to the internet for controls by Wi-Fi, and you're going to need, everybody's going to need 5 gigs. It's just that's just the way it is. Yesterday at home, my internet was testing at less than 3 down and not even 2 up. And my wife was extremely frustrated because she was trying to get some work done before she returned back to work. And I mean, it would just cut off, it would just shut down. So it's not out there.
Okay. Well, we'll discuss this again in our next study session, see what we can do. Lisa, do you have some suggestions for us at that point?
I would consider the aspect of your public safety infrastructure with having connectivity through the broadband. That's a real thing. You need that in order to have, you got to report on how inadequate some of the systems were, and that will be a real key going forward.
Good. Thank you. Thank you all. Jeff, do you have, you were talking about the resource officer? Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Bill,
We have Bill Myers with us today, superintendent from Shiloh. He wanted to come and talk a little bit and answer any questions that you may have. So we met with him a couple times and invited him here this morning. So.
Can you kind of outline what the tentative agreement is so we know that we can?
So basically what we've talked, there was a school resource officer.
we're desperate for one.
In the process of trying to provide one, be a cooperative between us. They're willing to help with the salary of another officer that we don't have right now. We're going to provide vehicles. They will be using them most of the time. We will use them on some off days and through the summer. So with that, I'll let Bill go ahead and speak.
As I'm Bill Myers, let me thank Matt and Jeff. They've done a fantastic job of getting this. And a lot of the times, I've been through this process a couple times, and you get to the point where, hey, our board wants to do it, and your board wants to do it, now what? And so we're trying to push them through that. Our board is super excited about it. We've got a program called IC. So we have, I don't know if concerns is the right word, but we want to make sure that whoever we hire is successful. We've gone through this process, and we don't have a huge building, and we have 375 kids. So one of our concerns, we just don't want the person to get bored. We do have some ideas on things, and so Jeff has brought some to the table too of things, responsibilities. We have a program called ICU, and there's a role of a lifeguard that this person could fill. And then that role really makes strong connections with kids who don't have homework done. And as you guys probably know, most of the time those students don't have, some of those students don't have the support that they need, so we offer it at school, and I would like to get that person involved in this to make those connections. Matt and Jeff, we talked about uniforms. They both have said, hey, we want a soft uniform, so it's not a intimidation factor or anything like that. We want this person to make connections with their students. We're super excited that there's a candidate out there that's certified. You know, we had Rich Wostocki come and talk to our families and our students a couple weeks ago, and one of his points was there's 30,000 resource officers hired in the United States, only 6,000 of those are certified. So if we've got an applicant that's got that, and also it takes a ton of time off of training that we're able to use them. So we've talked about salaries and benefits. The only thing that really I think we need to work through with MOU, and I told these guys the last time we met, some of our board is concerned, we've been asked to take the full salary on and the full benefits, even though we won't be using this person maybe up to 3 months. So, so I would ask this board, and you know, our board's responsible to their community just as you are, you know, is there some leeway in that? Would you be willing to pay the summer salary, or if not 3 months, 2 months, and if not 2 months, maybe 1 month? You know, because we won't have that person at all in the summer when we're closed. We don't have a need for them. But during the school year, we absolutely would. So that's what I would ask. I think that's really the only thing that what you guys have shared and what we've shared with you. That's the only thing. I've got a drafted MOU ready to go. If you want to run it by your board, your lawyers, whatever. But if we could iron out that one issue, we're willing to pay 100% of benefits, but when you look at the salary and go, well, we're not even going to use this person, and then you kind of, you know, get into, in summer, the police officers I know typically accrue a lot of overtime. That's not something we feel we should necessarily be responsible for. Summer overtime, we want that officer to be able to make that money, but on our end, you know, that's not financially responsible to our parents and our community. Other than that, we're full board, excited, and ready to get an MOU on the table and open the position and interview.
When would they, this fall?
We would like to start, in August when school starts.
Right.
Matt and Jeff both said, hey, we think we can make this happen. I've been in situations where I thought, you know what, maybe January is more reasonable, but I agree with them. I think that we can. I think if we work together and get that MOU signed, we can open the position, and I think we can hire for August. I think we got time to do it.
Jeff, you got anything to add to that?
No, I really, like I say, we're still talking. I wanted to bring him here and let you guys hear our plan, and we can discuss it. I mean,
That's fine.
and like I say, he was looking at January 1st, which I think it can be done by the end, and like I say, if possible, if we can get it done by start of the 23-24 school year.
You have somebody identified, don't you?
Right, correct.
Well, and so part of my thought process too is because training takes a long time. We've got somebody, we have an interested applicant that's already gone through that training. I've been in situations where you get them for a week and they go to training for 3, and then you get them for a week and they got to use vacation days, they're going to lose them, and then you don't, you know, I mean, it's just, if we've got somebody that's already trained and ready to go, that's why I think that we'll be able to start in August. If we get our ducks in a row, you know, we could have posted as soon as we come to an agreement on the MOU. We can jointly interview together. Obviously, it'll be your employee, so you would have more weight in that decision, but we would like to be able to at least be at the table.
Matt, you need to get that or Jeff, I'm sorry, we need to see that MOU as soon as we can.
The only thing that is holding back that MOU right now is the pay.
Right, and then with the sheriff's committee needs to meet, right, Carl?
Yes. Yeah, I've got several questions.
Please.
Yeah.
You're talking about the salary. The person will be an employee of the sheriff. His hours, is it gonna be like 8 to 4? I mean.
No, that's a good question. So, and we would want that person at some games, maybe
Well,
at
that was
dance.
another question.
So what we would like to be able to do is have a flexible schedule during the school year, so that maybe we could agree that, hey, they're gonna build up 16 hours of comp time. Maybe they don't come in till noon on a night that we know we need them.
Well, that was my question, because if they're gonna be there all the time during the school hours, depending on what that is, and then if you want them at ball games, then you got overtime issues.
Right, so that's how we were hoping to kind of work with whoever that candidate is and say, look, we'll just be flexible, you can build some time and use it during the school day, you know, come in late, leave early, that kind of stuff.
One of our agreements was that, so we've got an officer on there something happens in Hume, something happens in Metcalf.
Right.
That officer's got the flexibility to leave and become a first responder or first on the scene, so.
But, and then another question, you know, if a guy is sick for a week, are you gonna take someone, I mean, are you required to put, with this agreement, 40 hours at the school? We pull someone else off the road to kind of fill in, you know, if-
Well, that's probably not something we're gonna be able to do with the manpower we've got. I mean, if somebody's sick a week, or, not that we could have somebody swing by and make a pass,
but so that week that he's sick, then they just won't have anybody.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we're willing to understand that, that's
Right.
reasonable, we
Okay.
can't, you know,
Yeah.
you know, as long as, if we could get somebody to
Have
stop out.
substitute teacher, we just
Matt
can't
comes
have
out all the
substitute
time.
SRO.
But yeah, we would just work with you on that. That's
Right, yeah.
Something like that's reasonable.
And then you were talking about the benefits, you would pay 100% of the benefits,
Insurance, yeah, insurance, those sort of things.
Insurance.
Retirement, whatever your benefits.
IMRF, so, you know, there's just a lot of,
Well, Social Security,
Right.
we can't charge anybody else.
right,
for
because
that.
that's something we tax
Right.
for.
Right, and we couldn't charge you for the IMRF either.
Oh, you
Right.
couldn't?
No,
No.
not legally. I mean,
Okay.
we're already connected, you're a taxing
Right.
body, we can't,
Okay.
it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
Well, and
Now,
I think.
insurance, yes.
Okay.
And it's just for the individual. If he has family, then that's on him.
Right, yeah.
I mean, what's our employees roughly pay?
18, oh,
180, 180 a month?
If that.
I got it.
173.
Yeah,
Sound right off that paper.
And then what's the county portion of that?
We pay 82%, they pay 18%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Carl, I'll see if I can find it.
143.21.
$700.
You know, but if that's something that you said, hey, we'll take benefits instead of paying 2 months in the summer, we'll take the benefits, that's something we would be, you know what I mean, we'll be reasonable with any,
Okay.
with any kind of, anything that you offer. We want this to happen, obviously.
We need to get together here next, by next week, early next week.
I'm willing to come to anything, anything.
Yeah, we'll let you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I can
And
bring
then
a board
we can-
member if you need me to.
And
something like
then we
that.
can codify it and pass it at the June meeting, and that way you'll know what's going on.
Yeah, our June meeting's June 19th. But I've got, if there's something that happens with our board, I call each one of them, and I get, you know what I mean? So I can get you an answer on anything that you want.
Ours is the 14th, I believe.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Bill, I don't know if you forwarded that draft MOU to the sheriff or not, but if you have that, could you email that to me?
When I get back, I'll email it to you.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then we can fill in the holes
Yeah,
together, and then,
sure. Yep.
we appreciate it. I think it's great that we can cooperate
Yeah,
and
I do.
offer public safety like this, especially for our kids.
It's been something in the works for 3 or 4 years, and maybe.
Yeah, and when COVID hit,
Yeah.
we gave up the ghost on it.
Well, and I think that, I don't know if it was miscommunication or misunderstanding. I think both, I know our board was frustrated with the past experience, but they are not, I don't feel like that frustration is there anymore. They're ready to move forward and they're ready to, sign an MOU and get a resource officer in our building, protect our kids.
Would we have to buy another squad car?
No, I don't think so. We're in good shape. We got
Okay.
Gonna be good.
2 new
Good
ones
on
coming, so
vehicles
we'll
right
have
now.
something that's coming out that can go right, a few
Okay.
decals and be ready to.
I mean, it's not like for the most part, the squad's gonna be sitting, it ain't gonna be
Right.
like on the road every day, so they wouldn't have to have,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it'll be parked right out front.
Yeah. Right, that's a deterrent.
Okay, well, we'll have a meeting
Yep.
Monday or Tuesday next week, is that all right, guys? And then we'll, Sheriff, does that, well, you'll.
I think so, yeah.
Well, anyway, we'll work something out so we can get a meeting in either the morning or the afternoon, first couple of days of next week. All right?
Yeah, and just if you need me, I'm available. Look, these guys got my cell phone number. Any questions, call anytime.
Well, I hope that we'll be at the meeting along with you when we can hammer it out.
Yeah, heck, if you want me there, I'm certainly happy to do it. Beautiful day, I rode on a motorcycle, hopefully do it again, right?
You can get a do-rag.
I know, I was, I drove with Thanks, guys, have a good day.
Thought, Jeff, when, I don't know whether this would even work out, let me do one thing first. Why don't we add, and I'll just go ahead and appoint, or move the ESDA committee to the sheriff's committee. It's done, okay? It's done. Then we've got a question. Is it possible that instead of trading off a vehicle in the future or something, might you have a vehicle that could be used since it will already be wired for radios and everything else? And I'm just thinking off the cuff that we might be able to pay or give, the county could pay the sheriff's department for that vehicle and give it to ESDA as a rolling command center. I'm just the thought, that's all. I'm not asking.
We've got, kinda need to go through them, we've got one, maybe two with a little TLC could become a rolling. And my command center, I didn't know if you wanted a vehicle set up or whether you was wanting a trailer, but.
Well, we don't know, none of us have
Yeah,
discussed
right.
that, but
I'll say possibly right now.
well.
Or maybe we can't do it now, but maybe next year.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If
We've got a couple kinda gonna start coming out of
Right.
rotation, so.
And then, as far as, if we have a rolling trailer, we'd still have to pull it with something.
Right.
So we'd need a vehicle, and then we can explore from there. So Carl,
They've got the small trailer out there that's.
Right.
With the generator and, I forget now what all's got in. I
can
think.
that be retrofitted, or is it,
And it's just a 2-inch ball hitch, I mean, yeah, you could
well, I mean,
mount more
fix
stuff
it.
in, I don't know what all they need.
I thought she said it was junk.
I don't know if the shed is junk, but it's not operational at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, probably tires and,
Okay.
because I went through it,
I just think we need to evaluate it, that's all.
Right.
Right.
And if we could spend a few grand on it and make it work, what the hell? Otherwise, we'll move
you
on.
know, of course, I get email all the time from people wanting to sell command centers. And they're everything from a 12-foot, bumper pulled camper with a radio system in it and some lights to, sky's the limit.
Well, it sounds like we need to catch up, so I just wanted to mention that as
So it's like
something.
if anybody's seen the command unit we had at the fair last year.
Right.
Which is through ILEAS, which, most of the time we can get it on a moment's notice. If we had a major disaster and a tornado hit 5 or 6 counties, we may be the last person in line to get it, and we need it just as bad as everybody else, so.
Well, we just need it, I just
Yeah.
thought of, before we say too much more,
But yeah, we could probably come up with a vehicle.
okay. Any thoughts on that?
So that ideas, that was a trailer, pulled trailer.
No, it was a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But they make them in pull behinds and everything else.
They do, okay. What is that one that we've got, I mean, what was it used for, the one we had? I mean, once it's,
It's just always sit there, I mean, it's got,
It's sitting out there, it is.
yeah, but I mean, what's in it?
it's got a generator, it's got
Some chairs,
I think some
cots.
chairs, a table or two, like one of them pop-open shelters, extension cords, nothing.
Lights, I
I mean,
think.
it's not really command center, it's just something
Okay.
where we can pull up and we can have electricity, we can have shelter, we can have a, water jug or bottles of water in a cooler or something like
So
that.
it wasn't a command center?
There's no hooked
It
up
was just a,
radios or anything
Okay.
like that, no.
well,
We just need to find out what
What
we need,
we
what
have,
would
where
work
to go,
best
right.
for us,
yeah.
And I'm sure Bill from ESDA, that her boss, or not her boss, but the regional guy from IEMA can tell us what's required in those.
I would think there'd be money out there for stuff like that.
I thought there was.
Maybe on a, I don't know, maybe not.
You had anything briefly? Anything for,
Just a shelter has 35 animals in it, so kind of full.
How many pins you got?
Pardon?
How many pins do you have?
I don't know about that, we've got 35 animals. Some of them are a couple litters of pups, that's,
oh,
you count that too, so. Yeah. So would that, the command center be something, could all departments go together? I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
or how many departments, or whether ESDA need to take it over and do it as a,
like the sheriff's department, you mean too?
well, I mean, you got
Fire,
fire,
all the
police,
different police
law-
throughout the county.
Horizon, who knows what
Yeah.
they could do.
Manuals.
We put a big Horizon Health sticker on it, compliments of.
Well, you mean a combination where
Horizon Health,
several different agencies?
Farnham Farms.
Your mind is going wild, isn't it?
Ingram Ways.
Yeah. And somebody got
Andrews at the Westbrook.
Yeah.
meals provided by.
Wait oil.
Void oil?
That's the crust.
Kate, you got, what's?
I don't have a business.
Your wife does.
Oh, well, yes.
We missed
Good
Yeah,
Russ.
we'll take her money too.
Russ, you got
I sure
anything?
like getting my hands on it.
Carl, you got anything?
Paycom, while you were gone, Jeff and I met with Jessica and Dawn and talked about issues. And I know one of the things was getting her started training on the IMRF, everything, you know, insurance at Augie's office. Did that get going and has she been over there?
Yes and yes.
So that's working out.
It's in motion.
Yeah, good, because that was kind of important that we get that going with her and everything, but, and, you know, there were some issues brought up at that meeting, and we talked about that. The other day, when we were meeting with the sheriff, there was lots of issues at the sheriff's department, and I know there's issues at other departments, and, I know there's this overtime thing is a problem throughout the county because there's everybody, different ones have different policies on when they clock in and all that. So, I don't know, I would like to see maybe I don't know when we've had our last department head, elected officials meeting, maybe set up a meeting where we can get all the people together and find out the different issues maybe in the different departments. And I know specifically, I want to get a meeting set up with the sheriff, his staff, the secretary, Vicki, because she's, you know, there's just a lot of struggles there.
I'd already mentioned to Lisa
Yeah.
that we're gonna sit down with Jessica. She and Jessica and I here maybe this week, and so we haven't set up a schedule.
Yeah. But I'd like to hear from all the department heads, because I keep hearing about, like at the state's attorney's office, there's issues, well, just everything's, there's just no it's inconsistent on the way things are on the different departments.
So more on the policy side?
I think, yeah, to some degree, you know, because like the overtime, you know, some of them, you know, after 10 minutes, it bumps up to 8, or less than 10 minutes, bumps up to 8. Sheriff's Department, I don't think it does it at all.
I did check with her, it does, but we were gonna explore that with her and how it works, because she was very definitive about how it's working,
Yeah.
so.
And I know the probation, you know, he absolutely will not let anybody overtime. And I don't know how he does that compared to the other people, because other departments, every time they clock in 5 minutes early, it's overtime.
Can't that be programmed in?
Well, I would think so.
I would think so too.
We need to get together on a smaller group to start with and get some of these questions answered.
Right.
And then move into.
Well, just something needs to be done, because, you know, here it is 6 or 8 months after we started, and there's still a lot of issues. And a lot of disgruntlement. You know, so, need to not let it slide, let's get something done on it. Do you want to bring up about the longevity stuff with the sheriff's department?
I don't see why we couldn't. Do we need to be in close? We don't need to be, do we?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. What? Do you have a question?
I just wondered if that's.
It's union approved now.
Sure.
I mean, we're all on board. I mean,
Well, but I don't know the
No,
rest of the
no,
board.
I don't mean, I mean,
Yeah,
the
the
committee.
committee, but the
Right.
rest of the group, they don't have a clue what we're
Basically,
talking about.
what we've got is a situation, a lot of businesses, when you go and apply for a job, you get credit for experience in your job. Like if you're gonna go to an industry and you've got an accounting degree and you got 10 years worth of experience, they give you credit for that. What we're talking about doing, and the unions agreed with us, is to be able to give prior certified credit to officers, sheriff's deputies, and thereby catching up. Say, for example, we've got somebody on board that's got 10 years worth of experience right now that they brought into the job, 10 years, but they're only with us like for 5 right, or let's say 3 right now. So they would be able to move up on the seniority or the longevity chart twice, because it goes 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And it's 3.5% bump each time. So,
And the reason for this is because that's starting to be the trend out there.
right, and we've got to be
You're not gonna do
competitive
it. Right.
with other, and we may lose people
Because
of it. Without getting specific, there are a couple of individuals that are being courted by other agencies, and we need to be competitive.
Every department's headhunting. Yeah.
So this is what we have agreed to as a committee. Obviously, there'll be a memorandum of understanding that'll come before the board, hopefully in June, I'm sure it will, or we'll do it at a special meeting and thereby take care of the folks that we've got on staff. Okay, I thought I saw a question.
No, just working it through.
So it affects what, 5 or 6 guys?
Yeah.
So, and I think this is a good thing. I think we all do. Also, we're adjusting a couple of categories where we're paying individuals for specialized administrative functions on top of what they're already doing. And they're getting a nominal amount, and we need to increase that so we're competitive there. For example, sheriff, detective, sergeant and detective. No, we're not gonna increase your salary.
you got the big mouth blasted.
Yeah.
So, detective, for example, so when you hire that person in, they're not hired as detective with its own job classification and pay?
No, the union allows the sheriff to elevate. I mean, he may have the idea to bring that deputy in, or that individual in, but he's starting at a base level, the way we've been doing it, and then give him a differential each hour for being a detective.
Right.
Or a sergeant.
So the differential then becomes the additional pay?
Correct. And that's just, we deemed it as being insufficient right now.
The amount is insufficient or the recognition?
Both.
Both.
Mainly the amount.
Okay.
Okay?
But yet you can't make it, you don't have the ability to make it a different job classification?
No, we could, absolutely. But that's not the way the union contract was negotiated.
All right.
Okay? We have to stick within the boundaries of the union contract.
While we're under that contract, yes. I mean, it's possibly something that could be changed, but sure.
I was just asking.
No, and that contract expires on November 30th of this year. So there's other things that we'll deal with that may help, including some of the stuff that Carl was talking about. I know that several of the administrators in the sheriff's department have already taken steps to smooth out some of the issues that we've had in the past. For example, look here, banking comp time. I mean, that could be a real, if you're banking 0.12 hours of comp time, that becomes a real pain in the butt. So that needs to be addressed formally, I think, for your protection and your protection, we need to do something about that in the contract, as well as other items, but we all need to understand what's going on, which means we need to get together. Did I?
Yeah. And, you know, we've also got the same problem, with a couple of road deputies, but then we've also seem like all the time we're losing correction officers. And there's a variety of different reasons, but one of it is, they go to other counties, make more money. One, I think you said left to go to the federal.
You got sign-on bonuses
All right.
$5,000 sign-on bonuses.
That union contract needs to be addressed too.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, a lot of, not all the surrounding counties, but a lot of the surrounding counties of us are bigger counties, and they're paying a whole lot more than our people.
Right.
And that's something we're,
But there's advantages if we can get in range.
Right.
Obviously, there's definitely advantages to working with a 17,000 people
Right.
county as opposed to a 76,000 or 126,000.
But I know this summer, or spring, I was talking to a sheriff from another county, and he had to bump his correction people up $5 an hour, just to keep people. So, and they know, the thing is, our employee, I know what you're saying, Jeff, but these employees know this.
Yeah, they do.
They do. I mean, it's not a secret that everybody's bumping this up, and, we're gonna probably get a dose of reality, quite honestly, when we go to negotiate.
Because quality of life can only do so much when it's not the dollars.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, back when I was sheriff, 20 years ago, I can only remember one person leaving. I think that we had 2 people retire in those 12 years, only had one person leave. I mean, everybody would stay there and they retired. Society isn't that way anymore. That's just reality that we were dealing with.
Sometimes they retired yet.
If you got a 2-member household, it's tough enough to do that without adding family to it.
And, we got a situation now with, in another department, person was offered a job at a good salary, but they're currently paying $200 a month family health insurance, and the county's family health insurance is over $2,000 a month.
Including the.
Right. So, that's potentially hurting us. And I don't know whether we can address that, this fall when we bid for insurance, but that's just something we've got to be thinking about.
Well, you chairman of the insurance, you need to get Kirk in here, and we need to start coming up with ways to address that issue, or at least close the gap.
Right.
And we talked about that the last time.
We've talked about it almost every time.
But it's starting to affect things.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I had.
That's enough. Well, no, I mean, I wasn't.
Anybody got anything for me? I gotta get that as a meeting if we don't.
See ya. Thanks, Jeff.
Oh, don't forget.
I'll wait here, Jeff.
Tomorrow, 10
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock tomorrow, right here.
Here.
Talking with Core
Yep.
on the jail, they might have some figures from the meeting we had the other day.
Yep, we need to get that nailed
So we
down
don't
soon.
forget
Good
that.
enough.
Take care, Jeff. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No. No.
Are you-
at the moment.
are you-
I'll wait here if he's going to that meeting. I'll wait.
Are you still seeking out information on insurance clarification from the city?
Yeah, and I've got some figures on that, but I want to get another example of it from somebody.
Okay. Augie, did you have anything? Do we have anything else to come before the meeting today? You've already had enough. You had half your meeting.
Svetlana.
I don't have anything, I just
Go ahead.
me,
Svetlana
hurt my feelings.
finally got a construction plan to Kevin from Chastain, who has been waiting on this for a long time. And so this is for the Short Sands project just north of Kansas. And so then she says, please confirm if we can move forward with our decommissioning bond. Well, no, you can't, Svetlana. And so Kevin sent me the cover letter and a very kind of generic statement on what he suggests their bond be for. And when I had communicated with him earlier, I had said he needs to come before the county board. Does that need, do we want him at our next study session? And then that would be approved at our next board meeting? How formal does the bond approval have to be?
I think it should
I
be
would
pretty,
think it-
pretty strong. We'd have to get it on, even if he was coming to the study session to explain it, we'd have to
Still
have
have
it
it
on
on
the
board.
agenda
Okay.
before he ever talked to us.
Right, so I was just gonna email him back, thank you for the information. Please be present at our study session and then at the board meeting,
Yes.
right? Okay.
And then we'll make sure that we've got some verbiage in the agenda for the 14th, I think, or whatever day it is, June, right?
Yeah, we'll do that, 12, 14, whatever the day is. We also have Jonathan gonna speak at our next study session.
Who?
Jonathan Burns,
Yeah,
just FYI.
yeah, yeah.
So I will communicate back with Kevin and Svetlana. I just love to say that name, as you know. Let's see, I think that's about it.
Carl?
Did you want to briefly talk about the meeting that we had last week with Core
Yeah, we
and
can.
Architect? So
Yeah, we can.
kind of, so the rest of them will know.
Yeah, I forgot. A lot's gonna get updated tomorrow.
Yeah.
But basically, what they came up with was about $800,000 worth of real or possible cuts. We talked about other things.
Talking about the cost of the jail.
The jail, because remember, we were at 19.4, and then we talked everything from foundation to coming up with a 1,300 square foot savings on the booking area and laundry and commissary. We looked at the roofing, we looked at the jail cells and not have decommissioning or not doing several, what was it, 24 that we wouldn't do, or was it 12?
Well, the two up top, there was 12, and then possibly even some more, it could be more. Just having the shell there, but not, and the plumbing and everything, but not completely finish it out. See if that would maybe save some costs. And we've got quite a bit, a lot of dollars. The Sally Port, the
Sally
outside,
Port.
outside Sally Port, possibly cutting it back to just one or eliminate.
Moving the building to the east and thereby taking advantage of the high or the elevation there and not having so much fill.
The parking, part of the parking or the driveways, curbs and stuff.
So they were gonna take a look at a lot of other things, so we hope, and some of these things were not, like they're talking about, I think they priced out an 8-foot foundation that they'd have to dig a trench. They hadn't done any further designing to figure out if a 6-foot or a 4-foot trench, and we asked them to hit that because that's a significant savings. There was
There's different processes that they're looking at also.
right, so they were talking about piers, pilings, forcing gravel into the ground and tightening up the ground.
There are numerous things that they're looking into, we're gonna find out tomorrow,
Right.
which ones are.
So we gave them no figure on what we had to spend. So we're hoping that we can get a better idea. We even talked about what it would cost if we pulled most of the offices out and left them in place where they're at right now and redoing the sheriff's department downtown and having 2 locations and what kind of savings that would represent. So everything's on the table. Carl, can you think of any, or Andy, anything major that I've?
Those were just, and everything's on the table, and nothing, we haven't decided on it.
Oh, no.
So we're just trying to figure out.
Where are we with the USDA grant?
We're waiting, they're waiting for our final figure.
So they can't, we can't go any further
Well,
on
we
that
could
until-
go for the 4.5, but if we're gonna ask for more, we wanna get it in now, they say we have time, and that way we can get it for 3 3/4%. If we do it later, then we might get stuck with a higher percentage rate, or interest
And we
rate.
definitely don't wanna go with what that is right there.
No, I don't see how, I don't,
What she said.
we don't wanna go with 4.5, or
Not that we
4.5
wanna spend
million.
it, but we don't wanna just get going on the USDA grant with the 19 million because we need to move.
We need to move.
We don't, there is not a sense of urgency on the USDA grant that you need to submit what you have now.
There's a sense of urgency, but we still have time
Okay.
to put in a new estimate, okay? On which they can base their interest rate and so forth.
Okay.
And I talked to Josh about that this morning. They weren't concerned about it yet, but we're hoping we can get there soon.
What was June 30th, the deadline?
Yeah, June 30th, but we're looking at a week and a half to
Right.
have something fairly straight up, okay? So we'll see. We do have somebody who's getting the hay across the road, and we found a farmer to plant it in beans for this season. And it's a very loose, he's not gonna spend a lot of money on it, but we'll get a crop on it, and if we have to get in there and move some dirt, it's not gonna be a big deal. And they understand.
So they're just custom farming it.
Well, what the arrangement is when they sell the crop, they're gonna give us 1/3 of the crop. Okay?
With no expenses to us, 1/3, 2/3.
Yep. So, and that seemed to us to be fairly reasonable. Any other questions? Been a lot of stuff going on this morning. We need to do, well, we can discuss ESDA when we get together for the sheriff's meeting, how we're gonna deal with that, okay? All right, motion to adjourn. Russ moves, Andy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.